The lawyer's office smelled of old leather and dust. My hands trembled as I held the edge of the polished mahogany table, trying to steady myself. I had imagined this moment for weeks, the reading of Father's will. A chance, maybe, for my sacrifices to finally be seen. Ethan sat tall beside his wife, Clara. She was immaculate, her red nails drumming lightly on the armrest of her chair. When she glanced at me, it was with that familiar flicker of disdain, the one that said I was less than her. Too heavy, too slow, too broken in my speech to matter. The lawyer cleared his throat. Papers shuffled. My heart thudded. To my beloved son, Ethan. The words rolled like thunder in my ears. Ethan smiled, slipping his hand into Clara's. Line after line named Ethan the beneficiary, the house, the land, the accounts. I waited. Surely Father had not forgotten me. Surely somewhere in that stack of papers my name would appear. But when the reading ended, silence filled the room. My name had never been spoken. I opened my mouth. What about me? The stutter caught, sharp and humiliating. My face burned. Clara's lips curved into a cold smile. Ethan avoided my eyes, staring at the polished table as if the grain of wood held the answers. The lawyer adjusted his glasses. I'm sorry, Miss Harrison. The will leaves nothing explicitly to you. It states only that your brother should ensure your care if needed. My chest hollowed. Care? I had cared for them. I'd scrubbed floors, sold my jewelry, paid off Father's debts when the bank came calling. And yet here I was, reduced to a footnote, a dependent, as though I were some burden. Clara leaned close, whispering just loud enough for me to hear. Don't worry, Marianne. We'll make sure you're comfortable. Her tone dripped with false sweetness. I knew then that she had orchestrated this. Father, in his final years, had been forgetful. Clara had been everywhere, managing his papers, answering his phone, whispering that I was incapable. I wanted to shout, to pound the table, to reveal every sacrifice I had made. But when I opened my mouth, only broken syllables came. My stutter betrayed me again, leaving me frozen. Tears blurred the papers in front of me. My father's signature, scrawled in neat ink, seemed to mock me. Ethan shifted uncomfortably, but said nothing, and in that silence, the truth pressed down. I had been erased. Still, a flicker of memory surfaced. Weeks before his death, Father had placed his hand over mine. Marianne, he'd said, voice frail but steady. Don't ever let them take from you what's yours. I had nodded, not knowing what he meant. Now, sitting in this room, I wondered, had he left me something more? Something Clara didn't want me to see? The thought lodged like a seed. Perhaps the will we heard today wasn't the whole story. I rose clumsily, chair scraping. My heart pounded as I stumbled from the room, Clara's smirk chasing me like a shadow. Before you get too comfortable, like this video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy these stories. And tell me where you're watching from. I want to see how far this story travels. Because this story, it's only beginning. And the next revelation would shatter what little family I thought I had left. I sat in my tiny kitchen that night, the will papers still echoing in my mind like a cruel joke. Every syllable the lawyer spoke replayed itself, to my beloved son Ethan, to his wife Clara. Nothing for my daughter, Marianne. The silence of the house pressed on me. I wanted to scream, but all I heard was the faint hum of the refrigerator and the rapid, uneven beat of my heart. I pressed my hands against my face. Why? Why had Father left me nothing? The answer came as a familiar whisper, one that had haunted me all my life. Because you were never enough. I was never enough as a child. Too heavy, too slow, too clumsy. At school, the children laughed when I stumbled through my words. Stop it, I'd beg, my stutter tripping me on every sound. But they only laughed harder. Ethan never stuttered. He was the golden boy. Handsome, quick with words, good at sports. Teachers praised him, neighbors adored him. Even Father's eyes lit up when Ethan entered the room. And me? I was the shadow beside him, the sweet girl who cleaned dishes and stayed quiet. I can still hear Mother's voice, sharp as glass. "Marianne, eat less. No man will want you if you keep looking like that. Marianne, practice your words. Do you want people to think you're simple?" I practiced. I swallowed words until my throat ached. I starved myself until my stomach burned. Nothing changed. My body remained round. My voice cracked. My tongue stumbled. And Ethan thrived. Years later, when Father's business nearly collapsed, who sold her belongings to keep creditors away? Me. I pawned Mother's jewelry, the last thing she'd left me. I scrubbed office floors at night and woke before dawn to take extra shifts at the bakery. I came home with cracked hands and aching knees, but I paid off debts Ethan didn't even know existed. Father had looked at me once, tired eyes soft. "You've saved us, Marianne," he said. "One day, I'll make sure you're cared for." I clung to those words. They became my anchor in the storm. And yet, when the will was read, that anchor snapped, leaving me adrift. That night, I thought of Clara. Clara had entered Ethan's life like a queen stepping onto her throne. Elegant, slim, confident. When she first met me, she smiled too wide, her eyes glancing at my dress that clung too tightly to my body. I knew her type, women who measured worth by appearance. To her, I was nothing but a stuttering, overweight embarrassment to be tolerated. Over the years, she reinforced that belief with every subtle jab. "Marianne, dear, maybe you should try a darker color. It's more slimming." Or, "Don't worry about speaking at dinner. Ethan can explain better." Always said sweetly, always with poison underneath. I wanted to believe Father had seen through her. But what if he hadn't? What if Clara had convinced him I was unworthy, incapable of handling responsibility? The thought cut deep. I pulled out a box of old letters that night. Most were from Father, written during business trips. His handwriting was neat, firm. In one, he wrote, "Marianne, thank you for keeping the house in order. Your brother needs your steadiness more than he knows. I promise, when the time comes, you won't be left behind." My throat tightened. So why had I been left behind? Unless the will we heard today wasn't the will Father intended. It was a dangerous thought, one that sent shivers down my spine. Could Clara have tampered with it? She had been so close to Father in his last days, managing appointments, overseeing paperwork. She always insisted on helping, smiling as though she cared. But her eyes? Oh, her eyes. They told another story. Maybe I was paranoid. Maybe Father truly thought Ethan would care for me. But I remembered something else. A month before he died, Father had whispered to Ethan in the garden. I'd been hanging laundry nearby, pretending not to listen. His voice carried, rough but firm. "Promise me, son. Promise me you'll look after your sister. She has given everything Ethan had," nodded quickly. "Of course, Father. Don't worry." Now I wondered if that promise had been broken before Father was even in the ground. Sleep never came that night. I sat in the dark, staring at the box of letters, replaying every memory, every insult, every sacrifice, every time I tried to speak up but my tongue betrayed me. For years I had swallowed humiliation, but this time felt different. A seed of suspicion had been planted. If Clara had stolen what was mine, I would find out, even if my voice cracked, even if no one believed me, because I may not have been enough for them, but I needed to be enough for myself. And deep inside, I knew the truth was waiting, hidden, but alive. When I close my eyes, I still see it. The house that nearly slipped from our grasp years ago. Father's pride, mother's sanctuary, Ethan's playground, and my burden. It was 12 years ago when the bank's letter came. Father's business had been bleeding money, and the house was marked for foreclosure. Ethan was off chasing his career, charming investors, traveling abroad. Clara hadn't yet entered the picture. And me? I was there, scrubbing the kitchen floor when Father crumpled the letter in his shaking hands. "We'll lose everything," he muttered. His voice sounded smaller than I'd ever heard it. I remember the panic rising in me, the thought of strangers living in our home, of Father and me cast out. It clawed at my chest. Ethan was unreachable, weeks away in Europe. Someone had to act. So I did. I sold what little I had. My jewelry, the only heirlooms Mother left me. I pawned the locket she wore on her wedding day. I picked up shifts at night, mopping offices when the world slept. My body grew heavy with exhaustion, but the money grew slowly in the worn envelope I kept under my pillow. There were nights when my knees bled from scrubbing floors. My tongue swelled from swallowing words I wanted to shout at careless managers. But I stayed silent, worked harder. When the bank came again, I handed over the envelope. The clerk looked surprised at the thick stack of bills. "Are you sure, Miss Harrison? This is a family loan." "Shouldn't your father or brother?" "My family," I said, forcing the words past my stutter. "Deserves their home." He nodded, stamped the papers, and just like that, our home was saved. For years afterward, Father reminded me of that day. "You saved us, Marianne," he'd say, patting my hand. "This house stands because of you." But over time, the gratitude faded. Ethan returned, full of stories about deals and dinners, shaking hands with important men. Father beamed with pride. My sacrifice became a forgotten footnote. And when Clara married Ethan, she claimed the house as if it had always been hers. She repainted the walls, replaced the curtains, changed the locks without asking me. One day, I noticed her rearranging Father's old study. She picked up Mother's photo, smirked, and said, "It's amazing how a woman's touch can transform a place." Don't you think, Marianne? I wanted to scream that my blood and sweat had kept these walls standing. But instead, I nodded, my voice catching on my tongue. Now, after the will reading, Clara strutted through that same house like a queen. Guests admired the furniture she chose, the chandeliers she'd insisted on. No one knew that behind every polished surface were my sacrifices. And Ethan? Ethan said nothing. He allowed her to erase my part in the story. But I kept one thing hidden. In a drawer beneath my bed, folded carefully in a faded envelope, was the receipt from the bank, the final payment stamped with my name. Proof that I, not Clara, had saved the house. Proof that I wasn't the useless, stuttering shadow she wanted me to be. That night, after reliving the humiliation at the lawyer's office, I pulled out that envelope. My hands shook as I unfolded the yellowing paper. The ink was faint but legible. Paid in full by Margaret Harrison. A strange comfort washed over me. Even if they erased me from Father's will, they could not erase this truth. The next day, I brought the receipt to the kitchen table. Daniel, the neighbor, had stopped by to check on me. He'd been Father's friend, always respectful, always kind. His eyes softened when he saw my trembling hands. "What's that?" he asked. Proof," I stammered. "I saved the house." Daniel leaned closer, reading the faded words. He nodded slowly. "Keep this safe, Marianne. One day, you may need it." I frowned. "You think, Clara?" He sighed, glancing toward the window that overlooked Ethan's yard. I think Clara has built her life on other people's sacrifices. And women like that don't stop until they own everything. His words lodged in me like a warning bell. That night, as I lay awake, I clutched the receipt. My chest ached with anger and sorrow. I had poured myself out for this family. I had saved their home, their name, their comfort. And yet, when Father's will was read, my name had vanished like I never existed. What kind of daughter gives everything and receives nothing? I thought of Father's last words to me. Don't ever let them take from you what's yours. Maybe this receipt was more than a piece of paper. Maybe it was a weapon. The question burned in my mind. Would anyone believe me if I showed it? Or would Clara find a way to twist even this proof into her victory? I didn't know yet, but I felt the tide beginning to shift. And deep inside, I knew. The next betrayal was coming. The invitation came in Clara's elegant handwriting. Family dinner. Saturday, 7 p.m. I almost didn't go. After the humiliation at the lawyer's office, I wanted nothing more than to curl up alone. But something inside me, stubborn pride perhaps, refused to give Clara the satisfaction of my absence. So I dressed in my best dress, navy blue with tiny white flowers. It hugged my body uncomfortably, but it was all I had. I brushed my hair, smoothed the fabric, and whispered to my reflection, You can do this." When I arrived, the house glowed with warm light, laughter spilling from the windows. Inside, Clara floated through the room like a hostess from a magazine spread. Her smile was practiced perfection, but her eyes sharpened when they landed on me. "Marianne," she cooed, kissing the air near my cheek. "How lovely you look." The way she lingered on the word lovely told everyone it was a lie. Guests glanced at me, their smiles polite but pitying. At the dining table, Clara had arranged the seats strategically. Ethan sat at the head. She sat beside him. I was at the far end, between two distant cousins who barely remembered my name. The message was clear. I was an outsider in my own family. Dinner began with roast lamb, rich and fragrant. I served myself carefully, afraid of dropping food on my dress. Conversations swirled around me, business deals, vacations, expensive renovations. I tried to join in once, mentioning the new bakery down the street. My voice wavered. Their bread is..." Clara cut across me smoothly. "Oh yes, Ethan and I discovered it last week. Simply divine. But their coffee is far too bitter, don't you agree?" Everyone nodded, turning back to her. My words evaporated like smoke. As the evening wore on, Clara's jabs became sharper. "Marianne, darling, you're so good with chores. We must have you help with spring cleaning," she said, raising her glass. Laughter rippled through the table. My fork shook in my hand. My cheeks burned. I wanted to defend myself, but when I opened my mouth, my stutter trapped me. Clara tilted her head, mock sympathy in her eyes. "Oh, don't strain yourself, dear. We understand." The room chuckled. Ethan looked away, sipping his wine. He didn't stop her. He never did. Then Clara slipped. She leaned toward a cousin, lowering her voice. But not enough. When I organized Father Harrison's files, it was a nightmare. You wouldn't believe the state they were in, I froze. Organized Father's files? She hadn't been part of the family then, not officially. And Father had never trusted outsiders with his papers. But Clara had said it so casually, as if she belonged in that memory. The cousins nodded, unaware of the weight of her words. My heart pounded. If she'd had access to Father's files before his death, maybe she had tampered with the will. Dessert arrived, pumpkin pie, Father's favorite. Clara served Ethan the largest slice, herself the second, and me the smallest sliver, barely more than a taste. "Calories, darling," she whispered, her smile wide. You must be careful." The table erupted in laughter again. My hands trembled so hard the fork clattered against the plate. I wanted to scream, to reveal the receipt I had hidden in my drawer, to tell them how I'd saved this very house from the bank. But no one would listen. Not while Clara held the room in her manicured grip. As I left that night, I lingered in the hallway, staring at the family portraits on the wall. Ethan in his graduation gown, Clara in her wedding dress. Father, stern and proud, and me? Nowhere. I was a ghost in my own story. Clara appeared behind me, her perfume sweet and suffocating. "Don't take it so hard, Marianne," she purred. "Not everyone is meant to be the star of the family. Some of us shine brighter, some of us fade quietly, and that's all right." Her hand brushed my arm, gentle but cold. I wanted to pull away, but my body locked. She leaned close, her voice a whisper meant only for me. "You'll never win, darling. Not with your words, not with your looks. So why bother trying?" Her smile lingered as she turned away, calling cheerfully to Ethan. I stood frozen, her words echoing inside me. Maybe she was right. Maybe I could never outshine her. But deep down, I felt something else burning. Anger. And a question that wouldn't let me sleep that night. If she really handled Father's files, what exactly had she done to them? The answer, I knew, would change everything. A week after that humiliating dinner, another blow came. This one cut deeper, because it wasn't about money or property. It was about memory, about Mother. Mother's necklace. A simple gold chain with a delicate pendant shaped like a teardrop. She wore it every Sunday to church, her hand often resting lightly against it while she prayed. After she died, Father had placed it carefully into my palm. "It's yours now, Marianne," he'd whispered. "She wanted you to have it." I kept it in a small velvet box under my bed. Whenever the world felt too heavy, I opened that box, touched the pendant, and felt Mother close again. Until one morning, it was gone. I tore the room apart. Sheets flung, drawers emptied, floorboards checked. Nothing. Panic clawed at me. My sanctuary had vanished. I rushed to Father's old house, their house now. Clara greeted me at the door, her smile too wide. And there it was, around her neck, the teardrop pendant catching the morning light. My breath caught. That's She touched the pendant lightly. "Oh, this? Isn't it lovely? Henry gave it to me once, before he passed, said I was the daughter he never had." Her words sliced through me. "That's a lie," I stammered, my chest heaving. It was Mother's." Clara tilted her head, her eyes wide with mock innocence. "Oh, Marianne, dear, are you sure? Maybe your memory isn't as strong as you think. You've been under so much stress lately. Perhaps you misplaced it?" Ethan appeared then, drawn by the voices. Clara turned to him, fingers brushing the pendant. "Darling, remember? Your father gifted me this necklace. He said it suited me." Ethan frowned, uncertain. His eyes darted between us. I vaguely recall something." "No," my voice cracked. "It's mine." "Father gave it to me." But the stutter tangled my words. Clara stepped forward smoothly, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder for show. "She's confused, Ethan." "Grief does that. Let's not upset her more," Ethan sighed. "Marianne, maybe you should rest. Clara wouldn't lie about this." The room spun. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to show him the truth. But my words faltered, caught in my throat. Clara's smile deepened as she ushered me out. That night, I sat in my small kitchen, tears dripping onto the empty velvet box. Doubt gnawed at me. Had I misplaced it? Had grief clouded my memory? But no. I remembered clearly. Father's warm hand, his whisper, the weight of the chain in my palm. That necklace was mine. The next day, Daniel knocked on my door. He hesitated when he saw my red eyes. "Marianne, are you all right?" I shook my head, holding up the empty box. Clara, she's wearing it." His brows furrowed. "I saw her with it yesterday. But I also saw something else." He leaned in, lowering his voice. "I was helping her move some boxes from the attic last week." She dropped a small velvet case. "The exact kind you just showed me." She stuffed it into her closet quickly when she noticed I saw it. My chest tightened. So she took it?" Daniel nodded grimly. "I believe so." "She's clever, Marianne. She plants doubts in others' minds until they question themselves. But I saw that case. She has it." A storm brewed inside me. Clara had not only erased me from Father's will, not only humiliated me at dinner, she had stolen Mother's memory and wrapped it around her neck like a trophy. I wanted to march to the house, rip the chain from her throat, and shout the truth. But fear held me back. Fear of my stutter, fear of Ethan's disbelief, fear that once again my voice would falter while hers flowed like silk. Instead, I sat with Daniel's words echoing in my mind. She's clever. She plants doubts. Maybe that was her true weapon, not just lies, but the ability to make others question their own reality. That evening, Clara posted a photo online, her smiling face framed by golden hair, the teardrop necklace gleaming at her throat. The caption read, "Family treasures, passed with love." Hundreds of likes, comments praising her elegance. Not one person knew the truth. I stared at the screen until my vision blurred. My mother's necklace, my father's promise, my sacrifices. One by one, Clara was stealing them all. But a flicker of resolve sparked in me. If she could twist the truth so easily, then I would have to find proof stronger than words. The receipt, the draft will, and maybe Daniel's quiet observations. One day, I would gather them all. One day, her lies would collapse under the weight of truth. But tonight, I sat in the dark, clutching the empty velvet box, and I whispered into the silence, "You can take my place. You can take my name, but you will not take my soul." Still, a question lingered like smoke in my mind. Would anyone ever believe me? Or had Clara already stolen even that? The days after the necklace incident blurred together. I went to work, I came home, I cooked my simple meals. But inside, a storm churned. Every time I thought of Clara's triumphant smile, of Ethan's blind trust, anger tightened around my chest. Then one evening, as I pulled weeds in the small patch of garden behind my house, Daniel appeared at the fence. His face looked troubled, his hands restless at his sides. "Marianne," he called softly, "do you have a minute?" I nodded, brushing dirt from my hands. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "I need to tell you something, but you have to promise to keep it between us." My heart stuttered. "Oh, of course." He leaned on the fence, eyes darting as if someone might overhear. "You know Clara's been parading around with that necklace. But that's not all. I've seen things, papers, files, that don't add up." A chill swept over me. What kind of papers?" "Documents from your father," he said. "Wills, bank letters." I helped Clara carry a box out of the attic a few weeks after Henry passed. She was frantic, like she didn't want me looking too closely. But I saw enough to know something wasn't right. I swallowed hard. Did you tell Ethan?" Daniel shook his head. "He wouldn't believe me. Clara has him wrapped around her finger. If I accuse her, she'll twist it, make me look like the jealous neighbor sticking his nose where it doesn't belong." My breath came short. The will. If Clara had meddled with father's papers, then maybe my suspicions were true. Daniel looked at me then, his gaze steady. "Marianne, I've always respected you. You're quiet, but I've seen the strength in you. The way you took care of your father when no one else did. Clara doesn't want the truth out, and that makes me think the truth could ruin her." My cheeks flushed. No one had spoken to me like that in years, with respect, with belief. Yet a small voice whispered in the back of my mind, "Why is he telling you this now? What does he want?" I nodded slowly. "What should I do?" "Keep your eyes open," he said, "and hold on to any proof you have. Clara is clever, but clever people make mistakes. When she does, we'll be ready." That night, I couldn't sleep. I paced the small living room, clutching the old receipt that proved I'd saved the house. Daniel's words replayed in my mind. We'll be ready. But ready for what? And why was he involving himself so closely? I remembered moments before. The way his gaze lingered a beat too long. The way his voice softened when he said he respected me. Was he protecting me? Or using me? The next day, I went to the grocery store. As I walked down the aisle, I overheard two women whispering. "Clara's necklace, did you see it? Supposedly an heirloom. She's lucky, marrying into money. Poor Marianne, though, left with nothing." Their voices stabbed me, not unkind, but careless. I pushed my cart quickly away, my chest tight. When I returned home, Daniel was waiting by my porch. "I checked something," he said without greeting. "That necklace? It's insured, under Ethan's name. Policy filed just a month before Henry died." My eyes widened. "What does that mean?" "It means Clara was preparing. Lining things up before anyone knew she'd have it. That's not just vanity, it's planning." A sick realization settled in my stomach. Clara wasn't improvising her thefts. She was orchestrating them like a chess game, and I was always the pawn. Daniel stepped closer. "Marianne, you're not imagining things. I've seen her lies, but you can't confront her alone. She'll crush you with words before you finish a sentence. You need allies." Maybe me, I hesitated. Trust was dangerous, but loneliness was worse. "Why would you help me?" I asked. He paused, then smiled faintly. "Because truth matters. And because I can't stand watching her erase you." His answer warmed me, but doubt still lingered. If Clara discovered Daniel's loyalty, she would destroy him too. That night, I sat at my table, the empty velvet box in front of me, the receipt folded neatly beside it. I imagined Clara laughing with Ethan, sipping wine in the house I'd saved, wearing my mother's necklace like a crown. Daniel's warning echoed. Clever people make mistakes. Maybe Clara would slip again. Maybe one day I'd have enough proof to shatter her mask. But a darker thought crept in. What if Daniel wasn't just helping me? What if he wanted something else? My savings? My trust? My heart? I didn't know. All I knew was that Clara's game was bigger than I'd realized, and Daniel had seen too much to walk away now. I looked out the window that night, toward the glowing lights of Father's old house. Somewhere inside, Clara was plotting her next move, and I whispered to myself, "I'm watching too." The question remained, could I trust Daniel to stand beside me? Or would he become another betrayal waiting in the shadows? The invitation came again, this time for Ethan's birthday party. Clara had planned it at a lavish restaurant in town, all chandeliers and velvet chairs. I considered refusing, but a voice in me whispered, "If you don't go, she wins." So I went. I wore the same navy blue dress, pressed carefully, and clutched my small purse like a shield. The room buzzed with laughter and music. Clara glided across the floor, her golden hair perfectly styled, the teardrop necklace catching every glimmer of light. My necklace. Mother's necklace. She saw me enter and her lips curved. Not in welcome, never that, but in triumph. Ethan hugged me quickly, distracted. Glad you made it, Marianne. Sit anywhere. His attention darted back to a group of colleagues. I found myself at a table near the back, far from the spotlight. Clara made her rounds, charming each guest with ease. When her eyes flicked to me, I felt like a bug pinned under glass. Dinner began. Plates of lamb, crystal glasses filled with wine. Conversations swirled about business ventures, vacations, investments. I tried to join once, mentioning my small job at the bakery. My coworkers, they're kind, but... Clara's laugh cut across me. Isn't she adorable? She works so hard for so little, yet always finds joy in it. Such simplicity. The table chuckled politely. My cheeks flamed. I lowered my eyes to the tablecloth, wishing it would swallow me whole. Then came the moment. Clara stood, glass in hand, and tapped it lightly. The room hushed. All eyes turned to her. To my darling husband, she began, voice warm and clear. Ethan, you are brilliant, generous, the pride of this family. We celebrate you tonight. Applause filled the room. She waited, smiling, before continuing. And we mustn't forget the importance of family sacrifices. Her eyes locked on me. For instance, Marianne's perseverance. A ripple of amusement passed through the crowd. She may not shine in the same way, Clara went on, her tone honeyed poison. But she has always been there, scrubbing floors, managing chores, keeping herself occupied. It's inspiring, really. A reminder that even the humblest among us have value. Laughter erupted, glasses clinked. I froze, the stutter rising in my throat like a tidal wave. My hands shook so hard the wine spilled onto the tablecloth. Tss, Clara, I whispered, but the word broke in half. She leaned forward, raising her glass higher. To Marianne, the silent strength of this family. May she always know her place. The toast was met with a chorus of cheers. But beneath the sound, I heard the sting. Know your place. Tears stung my eyes. I stood abruptly, chair scraping against the floor. The room fell silent for a moment, surprised. I wanted to speak, to defend myself, to tell them all that I had saved the very house they dined in, that I had sacrificed everything. But my tongue failed me. The stutter trapped me, cruel and unrelenting. My chest heaved. The silence stretched, broken only by a few stifled laughs. Clara tilted her head, feigning pity. Oh, Marianne, don't push yourself. We understand. Laughter rippled again. Ethan said nothing. His silence was heavier than the laughter. I fled the restaurant, the night air biting my cheeks. Tears blurred the glowing streetlights. Behind me, music and laughter resumed, as if my humiliation were just another part of the entertainment. Daniel found me outside. He must have followed. His voice was urgent. Marianne, stop, please. I wiped my eyes angrily. She... I know, he said softly. She wanted to break you in front of everyone. And you gave her what she wanted. I stared at him, hurt. I tried. He shook his head. No, you don't have to fight her with words, not yet. Fight her with proof, with patience. She's clever, but arrogance makes people sloppy. His words sank in. Proof, patience. Maybe he was right, but the sting of humiliation burned deeper than anything. Later that night, a cousin sent me a message. I recorded Clara's toast. People should hear what she really said. My heart jolted. A recording. Proof of her cruelty. Maybe small, maybe not enough for court, but enough to show others her mask slipping. I listened to the audio, her words dripping with venom disguised as sweetness. May she always know her place? The world saw Clara as flawless, generous, kind. But I held a sliver of truth in my hands. It was a start. Still, as I lay awake, the question twisted in my mind. Would exposing her cruelty make people believe me, or only convince them further that I was bitter, desperate, pathetic? The morning after Ethan's birthday party, I felt hollow. Clara's toast played in my head again and again, her voice dripping with false sweetness. May she always know her place. But for the first time, I also heard the recording, played over and over on my phone, her mask slipping, the cruelty beneath the charm. Proof, even if just a fragment. I tucked the phone away and forced myself to breathe. Father's words returned to me. Don't ever let them take from you what's yours. That was when I decided to dig. The old house was mine once in spirit, though never in law. Now it belonged to Ethan and Clara. I knew I couldn't wander freely, but there was still the attic at my place, the boxes father had left behind when he moved in with Ethan near the end. Dust choked the air as I climbed the narrow ladder. Sunlight pierced through a cracked window, illuminating stacks of papers, boxes of clothes, old tools. I pushed aside brittle newspapers, yellowing ledgers, even a broken lamp. And then, buried beneath a stack of books, I found it, an envelope. My hands trembled as I pulled it free. On the front, in Father's familiar handwriting, were 2 words, for Marianne. My breath caught. Inside, a draft of his will, typed, but with notes scribbled in the margins. The ink was smudged, the edges torn, but the message was clear: equal division of estate, house shared between Ethan and Marianne. Tears filled my eyes. Father had intended for me to inherit. I wasn't forgotten. I wasn't erased in his heart. But the draft wasn't signed. It was incomplete, a fragment of what could have been. As I held the fragile paper, I saw something strange. Handwriting corrections not in Father's hand. The ink darker, the letters sharper. Someone had crossed out sections and scribbled alternative wording. My heart pounded. Clara? She'd been helping Father organize in his last days, hovering around his papers. Could she have tampered with the final draft, feeding him language that erased me? A cold certainty settled in my chest. That evening, I showed Daniel the document. His brows knit as he examined the notes. "This isn't your father's hand," he said. "I've seen Henry's writing for years. These corrections, too neat, too deliberate." My throat tightened. So, someone changed it?" He nodded grimly. "It looks that way." I felt both vindicated and crushed. Vindicated because my instincts had been right. Crushed because proof without a signature is fragile. In court, it would mean little. Clara would laugh it away. But Daniel placed a hand gently over mine. "It's something. And something is better than nothing." For the first time in weeks, I felt the faint stirrings of hope. The next Sunday, I attended church alone. After service, one of the older parishioners, Mrs. Callahan, approached me. She leaned close, her voice a whisper. "Henry told me once, dear. He said he worried about Clara having too much influence. Said he hoped you'd be protected." My heart clenched. Another fragment, another piece of the puzzle. But when I looked across the street, I saw Clara and Ethan stepping into their car. Clara's arm looped proudly through his, her necklace glinting in the sun. She glanced my way, her smile sharp as glass. She knew I was watching, and I knew she was daring me to act. That night, I laid out the items on my table like evidence. The receipt proving I saved the house. The empty velvet box, symbol of what she stole. The recording of her cruel toast. And now, Father's draft will. Together, they told a story. My story. But would anyone listen? Would Ethan, blinded by love? Would the family, charmed by Clara's grace? Or would they dismiss me as the bitter, overweight sister, stuttering through grievances that no one wanted to hear. I stared at the draft will until the words blurred. Equal division of estate. It should have been mine. At least half. Enough to give me security, dignity, a home. Instead, Clara wore my mother's necklace, lived in the house I saved, and basked in the inheritance Father never meant to deny me. That night, I whispered into the quiet, Father, I'll find the truth. And I felt a shiver of resolve, fragile but real. Still, one question haunted me as I folded the paper back into its envelope. If Clara forged Father's words once, what else had she forged? The answer, I feared, would unravel more than I was ready to face. I couldn't hold it in any longer. The draft will sat heavy in my purse, crinkled from my trembling hands. Clara's laughter still rang in my ears from that church parking lot. And Ethan's silence. Oh, his silence hurt more than her words ever could. So that night, I went to the house. Father's house, the one I'd saved. Lights glowed from the windows, and Clara's shadow drifted across the curtains. I rang the bell, my heart hammering. Ethan answered, surprise flickering in his eyes. Marianne? At this hour? I need to talk, I stammered. He hesitated, then nodded. Clara's asleep. Come in. The house smelled of expensive candles and polished wood. It didn't smell like Father anymore. I followed Ethan into his study, where he poured himself a drink. He offered me one, but I shook my head. My hands shook as I pulled the envelope from my purse and slid the draft will across the desk. Father meant for me to have half. Look, this was his doctor draft. Ethan frowned, picking up the paper. He read silently, lips tightening. Finally, he set it down, rubbing his temples. Marianne, he said quietly. Father worried about you. He wanted you cared for, yes. But Clara? She convinced him you couldn't handle responsibility. That leaving you property or money outright would only bring you stress. The words struck like a whip. She convinced him? Ethan, do you even hear yourself? That's not love. That's manipulation. He avoided my eyes. She only wanted what was best for you. My voice cracked. No. She wanted what was best for her. Memories flooded me. Father's hand squeezing mine. His whispered promise that I would never be left behind. And now Ethan sat across from me, shrugging off those promises as though they were childish dreams. Do you remember? I whispered. When Father was in the G-Garden? He made you promise. Promise you'd look after me. Ethan froze. His glass clinked against the table. I remember. Then why? My voice shook. Why let her erase me? His shoulders sagged. Because Clara said you couldn't manage it. She said it would only cause tension. She said you'd embarrass yourself or lose it somehow. And I believed her. The admission sliced through me. My own brother had doubted me, not because of proof, but because Clara painted me as weak. Anger surged. I slammed my palm against the desk. I saved this house. I paid Father's debts when you were traveling abroad. I scrubbed floors until my knees bled. And you believed I wasn't capable? Ethan flinched, guilt flashing in his eyes. Marianne, I didn't know. Of course you didn't. I cut in, my stutter sharp but steady this time. Because you never asked. Silence hung heavy. At last, Ethan whispered, Clara said she handled the paperwork with Father? She said it was what he wanted. I trusted her. There it was. Confirmation. Clara had touched the papers. She had guided his hand, maybe even forged his words, and Ethan had let her. I felt sick. You let her steal my life, I whispered. Ethan buried his face in his hands. I didn't mean to hurt you, but intentions didn't matter. The damage was done. I stood to leave, my legs unsteady. At the doorway, I turned back. One day, Ethan, you'll see what she's done. And when you do, remember this moment. Remember that you chose her silence over my voice? His eyes lifted, pained. Marianne? But I walked out, my pulse pounding. The night air was cold as I stepped outside. My breath fogged, mingling with the weight pressing on my chest. For years, I had told myself Ethan loved me, even if he was distant. For years, I thought family meant loyalty. But tonight, I saw the truth. He was weak. Too weak to stand against Clara's poison. And weakness, I realized, could be as dangerous as betrayal. When I reached my own house, Daniel was waiting on the porch. His expression was grave. You went to him, didn't you? He asked. I nodded. He admitted it. She told him I couldn't handle anything, and he believed her. Daniel clenched his jaw. Then she's winning. Unless you fight harder, I sank onto the steps, exhausted. I don't know how. He studied me for a long moment. Then maybe it's time you let me help. His words should have comforted me, but instead, a question gnawed at me as I stared into the darkness. Was Daniel truly my ally? Or another hand waiting to take what was left of me? Clara called it a family meeting. Her tone in the message was sweet, but I knew better. She was gathering the audience, and I was the entertainment. Still, I went, because if I didn't, she'd spin my absence into guilt. If I did, maybe, just maybe, I could finally make Ethan see the truth. The living room gleamed, spotless, full of polished wood, and Clara's expensive taste. Family members filled the couches, sipping wine, waiting. Ethan sat stiffly at the head, his face unreadable. Clara stood beside him, radiant, wearing the necklace again like a crown. I clutched my purse, where father's draft will lay folded. My heart thundered. This was my chance. Marianne? Clara cooed. We're all here because we want clarity. We've heard rumors. Her eyes sparkled with false innocence. Why don't you tell us what's troubling you? She made it sound like I was a child having a tantrum. I stood, legs trembling. All eyes turned to me. My throat tightened, my tongue stiff, but I forced the words. Father, didn't mean to leave me with nothing. Whispers rippled. I pulled out the draft will, holding it up with shaking hands. I found this. It says the estate was to be shared. Ethan's eyes widened. For a moment, hope flickered in my chest. But Clara stepped forward smoothly, plucking the paper from my hands. She unfolded it dramatically. Oh dear. This? She smiled at the room. It's an old draft. Not even signed. Anyone could have scribbled on it. Probably not even Henry. No. My voice cracked. Those notes, not his. Someone changed them? She tilted her head, eyes gleaming. And who would do such a thing, Marianne? Are you accusing your own father of being incompetent? Or your own brother of lying? Murmurs filled the room. Faces turned skeptical. My chest tightened. I'm not... The stutter swelled, choking me. Not them? Clara? My tongue twisted, betraying me. The word came out broken, barely recognizable. Clara seized on it. See? She's confused. She doesn't even know what she's saying. Poor thing, laughter rippled. Small, nervous, but real. My cheeks burned. I tried again, desperate. I saved this H house. I paid father's debts. But my voice cracked, collapsing into silence. Clara draped the paper over the coffee table like evidence of my foolishness. Henry trusted Ethan because he knew Marianne couldn't handle responsibility. Tonight proves it. I looked around. My cousins averted their eyes. My aunt sipped her wine, uncomfortable. Not one voice rose to defend me, except one. Daniel, standing in the corner, spoke quietly. She's telling the truth. I saw Clara with Henry's papers. She was too eager, too controlling. That will is not what Henry wanted. The room stilled. For a heartbeat, hope surged. But Clara laughed, smooth and practiced. Daniel, really? You've been hanging around Marianne far too much. Maybe you're hoping for her affection? It's touching, but desperate. And now you're inventing stories to please her gasps. Snickers. Eyes shifted from Clara to Daniel, suspicion dawning. Daniel's jaw tightened. That's not true. But the damage was done. Clara had flipped the narrative in seconds. Daniel looked defensive, exactly as she wanted. Ethan rose, his voice sharp. Enough. We're not here to play games. Marianne, I love you, but you need to stop this. Clara has been nothing but loyal. She supported me, supported this family. This obsession with the will, it has to end. His words crushed what little strength I had left. Loyal. That was the word he used for her, not for me. My legs gave out. I sank into the chair, silent, defeated. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped my purse. The room blurred through my tears. Clara leaned close, whispering so only I could hear. See? Your voice can't save you. It never will. When the meeting ended, I stumbled out into the night. Daniel followed, furious. She twisted everything. She turned them all against you. I nodded numbly. She's right. My voice, fails me. It always has. He grabbed my shoulders, his eyes fierce. Then we'll find another way. Proof that can't be silenced. But as I looked back at the glowing windows of Father's house, Clara's silhouette framed inside, doubt gnawed at me. What proof could ever be enough when my own brother had already chosen her over me? The next morning, I woke with swollen eyes. My voice still echoed in my head, broken, stumbling, humiliated. Clara's whisper replayed like a curse. Your voice can't save you. It never will. But when Daniel knocked on my door, his face was alight with something fierce. He carried a folder tucked under his arm. Marianne, he said, stepping inside. I think I found something. We sat at my small kitchen table. Daniel slid a document across the wood. It bore a notary seal, dated just weeks before Father's death. It's a witness statement, Daniel explained. From Mr. Yates, the notary. He says Henry signed a will draft here, one that divided the estate equally between you and Ethan. He notarized Henry's signature, but the copy he kept disappeared. My breath caught. I touched the paper gently, the raised seal cool under my fingers. So there was proof? I whispered. Yes, Daniel said, and this statement backs it up. If the draft vanished, someone took it. Someone who didn't want you included. I didn't have to say her name. It hung between us like smoke. Clara. That evening, we went back to Ethan's house. Daniel insisted. If you want him to open his eyes, this is the best chance. My legs felt like stone, but I followed. The study door creaked open, and there was Ethan, hunched over his desk. Clara wasn't in sight. I laid the notarized statement in front of him. Ethan, read this. Please. He scanned it slowly, frowning deeper with each line. His lips pressed thin. This doesn't make sense. Father never mentioned this to me. Because Clara kept it from you, I said, my voice shaking. She hid it. His eyes hardened. Stop. You can't keep accusing my wife without real proof. This is proof, Daniel cut in, his voice sharp. A notarized statement isn't gossip. It's legal. Your father intended for Marianne to inherit Ethan pushed the document back across the desk. It's circumstantial. Even if this man swears he saw Father sign something, without the will itself, it's meaningless. My stomach dropped. I had expected resistance, but not this complete dismissal. Just then, Clara entered, carrying a tray of tea. Her eyes flicked to the paper, and for a fleeting second, her smile faltered. But only for a second. "What's this?" she asked sweetly, setting down the tray. Ethan sighed. "Some notarized nonsense Daniel dug up. Claims father signed another draft." Clara picked up the paper, reading it with exaggerated care. Then she laughed, light and dismissive. "Oh, Ethan, anyone can forge a statement." Marianne's desperation has clearly rubbed off on Daniel. Her words stung. Daniel flushed with anger. "This is real." "You know it is." She leaned closer to him, her voice dripping mock sympathy. "Careful, Daniel. Defending Marianne so passionately, people might think you're obsessed with her." My breath caught. Again, she turned his loyalty into suspicion. Ethan rubbed his temples, groaning. "Enough. I won't hear another word about this. Father made his decision." "Marianne, please, let it go." My voice broke. You won't even consider it?" He looked at me, pained. "I can't tear apart my marriage over speculation." "I won't." Clara's hand slid onto his shoulder, possessive, triumphant. Something inside me cracked. When we left, Daniel was seething. "He's blind." She has him wrapped so tight he won't believe his own eyes. I clutched the folder to my chest. "Then we need more." "Something undeniable?" Daniel nodded, his jaw set. "Then we keep digging. Because if she forged papers once, she'll have left a trail." That night, I stared at the notarized statement again and again. The seal gleamed faintly under the lamp. Proof, but not enough. Clara had turned Ethan's love into a shield. Every truth I brought forward shattered against it, and yet a thought kept circling in my mind, unsettling, relentless. If Ethan won't believe me now, will he only believe once Clara destroys him too? Daniel returned 2 nights later with eyes shadowed from lack of sleep and a stack of bank statements clutched in his hands. "I told you she'd leave a trail," he said, spreading the papers across my small table. I blinked at the numbers, overwhelmed. "Well, what is all this?" "Clara's financials," he explained. "I have a friend who works at the bank. Let's just say he owed me a favor. These are accounts tied to her name. And look." He jabbed a finger at the lines. Transfers. Regular, consistent. From Henry's account into hers. Right before he died, my chest tightened. She was draining him? "Not just draining," Daniel said. "Redirecting. Payments meant for bills, even charity donations. Henry set up. They were rerouted to Clara's private account. Over 60,000 in less than a year, the room swayed. Clara hadn't only stolen my inheritance. She had siphoned Father's money while he was alive. The weight of it crashed over me. I thought of Father in his final months, forgetful, frail, worried about expenses. I remembered him apologizing for not being able to help me more, saying things were tighter than they used to be. Tears blurred the numbers on the page. He hadn't been failing me. She had. She stole from him while he was dying. I whispered. Daniel's eyes burned. And Ethan refuses to see it. But this isn't speculation. These are records, cold, hard proof. We debated all night. Should we confront Ethan again? Should we go to the police? To a lawyer? Fear gnawed at me. Clara was cunning. She'd twist even this into an accusation against me. But the thought of letting her win, of letting Father's memory be stained, filled me with rage. For once, my stutter didn't hold me back. We fight. We don't stop until everyone knows. Daniel nodded grimly. Then we start with Ethan. If he doesn't believe us after this, he never will. The next evening, we stormed into the house uninvited. Ethan looked up from the dining table, startled. Clara sat opposite him, sipping wine, smug as always. "Marianne," Ethan began, weary. "Please, No. My voice shook, but didn't break. I slammed the papers onto the table. Read them. See what she did. Clara's face drained of color for a heartbeat before she caught herself, setting down her glass with exaggerated calm. What now? Old receipts? Conspiracy theories? Bank statements, I said, louder. Transfers. From father's account to yours. Ethan frowned, scanning the sheets, his brow furrowed deeper. Clara? She laughed lightly, too quickly. Ethan, please. These could be doctored. Do you think Marianne has suddenly become an accountant? Obviously, Daniel is feeding her nonsense. It's not nonsense, Daniel shot back. Look at the dates. Look at the amounts. Regular, systematic. Exactly when your father was slipping, Ethan's hands tightened on the paper. Clara, answer him. Her eyes hardened. The mask cracked. Fine. Yes, I moved money, for safekeeping. Your father was confused, making mistakes. I made sure nothing got lost. That money was for his care, I cried. For his charity, his bills. You took it for yourself, she sneered. And what would you have done, Marianne? Spent it on more failed jobs? More pity parties? At least I put it to good use. The words sliced through me, but for the first time, Ethan didn't immediately defend her. He stared at the statements, silent. Daniel pressed forward. You see it now, Ethan. She didn't just manipulate the will. She bled your father dry. She robbed him while he was alive. Ethan's hands shook. Clara, tell me this isn't true. But Clara only lifted her chin, eyes blazing. I did what I had to do, and you should be thanking me. Without me, your father's chaos would have ruined everything. The room went still. Ethan's face twisted with conflict, anger warring with denial. I leaned forward, my voice trembling but fierce. This is who she is, Ethan. And if you can't see it now, then you'll lose everything, just like father did. Clara's eyes snapped to me, cold and sharp. For the first time, she didn't bother with charm. You think this changes anything? You've already lost, Marianne. The will is mine. The house is mine. Ethan is mine. All you have is your stutter and your bitterness. But she was wrong, because now, for the first time, Ethan didn't look at me with pity. He looked at her with doubt. That night, as Daniel and I walked home, a fire burned in my chest. She had stolen money. She had manipulated father. And now, she had overplayed her hand. For the first time, I believed, maybe, just maybe, the tide could turn. But a question lingered, cold and dangerous. If Clara feels her grip slipping, what will she do to keep it?